Welcome to the Selling to Corporate podcast, where we're going to be challenging your sales beliefs around selling to corporate organizations and help you increase your bottom line profits every single month. I am Jessica Lorimer, your sales expert and guide in this world of selling to corporate companies, skyrocketing your company sales and making the impact that you really want in the world. Now, don't forget, if you do enjoy the show today, please do head over to iTunes and leave us a review. But enjoy this episode, and I am really looking forward to sharing some epic sales wisdom with you. Here we are at the end of February, and I don't know about you, but I am still working my way through some of the emails that I got over Christmas. And I don't know why. I say this to myself every year. I create a really good implementation plan in October, the year before always. And I come back, I do my sales activity, I kick off any client projects that I have. This year, I got to sit down and actually deliver some new things for our C-suite participants and hold our amazing C-suite in-person day. I'll tell you more about that later. But emails and answering emails is just endless, absolutely endless. So if you are feeling like me and you currently have 370 unread emails in your inbox, A, do not worry, and B, this is how your stakeholders must feel. Right? So if you've got stakeholders that haven't been as quick to respond in January, please don't worry. There are lots of reasons why lead generation can be slow at certain times of year, but honestly, sometimes it's the overwhelm of the inbox. So if your stakeholders are anything like me and they're dealing with a million things a minute, then it's quite likely that it might take them a good couple of touch points to reach back out to you. And I'm going to talk about that in a bit because today's episode is all about the key insights and trends that you really need to know and use if you're going to really dial down on the B2B revenue streams this year. There are some really interesting things coming up, and I'm going to be sharing some more of the data and results that we've been collecting so that you can see what you want to embrace and actually what you want to get rid of, which is always fun, right? So on that note of tracking what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of, this sales tracker spreadsheet that I mentioned in our last episode has been a huge hit with a lot of you. In fact, you can still get the discount on that sales tracker if you put the code TRACK, all in capitals, in the checkout. You can get that discount, still just for a limited time. And we've had some amazing feedback. So for those of you who listened to the last episode and thought, I need to get onto my metrics this year, it's going to make a heck of a difference. I'm proud, like genuinely super, super proud. It's actually the first digital product I've launched in, I don't know, 4 years, maybe longer. I haven't done a digital product in ages, but it's been really, really well received. And I'm super, super excited about all of the great feedback that we keep getting. In fact, we had the epic Hayley Gillard, who is the managing director of Compassionate Leaders Limited and runs some phenomenal leadership development programs for organizations. She emailed us and said, oh my gosh, I've just downloaded the sales projection tracker spreadsheet and I think my world just changed in 10 minutes. Not only is everything super easy to use and I'm not tech savvy, I can now see clearly where my focus needs to be. I don't need to panic. I can create a plan of action. And in fact, I've got a marketing team call in 30 minutes to discuss all of this. Thanks, Jess, for illuminating the sales process for me. And if you haven't got the tracker yet, stop reading this and just get it. So if you want to take a hint from Hayley to go and buy the sales tracker spreadsheet, you can still get the discount if you use code TRACK, all in caps, at the checkout. So in that little coupon code box, you can use the code TRACK, you'll get the discount still, which is all very exciting. And, from one non-tech savvy person to a bunch of other potentially non-tech savvy people, it's really easy. I've been using it to record all of my data. You will all be pleased to know that I have been recording everything daily on that sales tracker spreadsheet. I actually just have it open in a tab all the time. which is why if you ever get any kind of screen recordings from me, I have about a bazillion tabs open. But I do promise they're not all just the sales tracker. Some of them are other things. Mainly weird stuff I've been retargeted using Facebook ads with. But yeah, anyway, if you want to go and grab the sales tracker spreadsheet, you can. Discount code is TRACK, all in caps, and you can grab that. We've had epic feedback and people are using it really, really well to get into good habits early in 2024 and make sure that they know exactly what their revenue is doing. And on that note, a nice little segue, because recently we got to hold one of our C-suite in-person days. And for those of you who don't know what a C-suite in-person day, essentially for all participants of the C-suite, we have a couple of days a year where we invite people in person to a private members club in Shepherd's Bush. It's all very exciting, very glamorous. And I deliver a whole bunch of implementation sessions to make sure that our C-suite participants are really prepared for the time ahead, that they've got key insights to move forward with, that they have any new strategies or new business development techniques that they might need. And it's something that I really, really love to do. I actually posted about it on LinkedIn after we did our January in-person day, and we had loads and loads of people come onto that post and talk about how great it was. And for me, selfishly, it's just awesome to have people in a room who actually get it. You know, that's so rare, because when I started in the online space in 2015, I would occasionally mention to people that I had corporate clients, that I did corporate consulting, pieces of work that I loved selling to companies, and they would look at me like I'd grown two heads. And it wasn't just the people that you would expect, right? It wasn't just the people who had jobs that they didn't enjoy or where they had left under really quite sad, in most cases, circumstances. But it was people who just couldn't understand why I wouldn't want to live and breathe social media. And as an introvert, I've always found it really difficult. Social media is hard. It's because it's reactive. It's not measurable, which doesn't appeal necessarily to my logical brain. But there is something really special about being in a room with other people who actually understand and want to be selling to corporate clients, because it takes a different level of person. And I say that in a non-pretentious way, that people who sell to corporate clients are typically those who are more interested in things like research, who are intelligent, who really want to use their expertise that they've gained over years of working and certifications and qualifications and all of those good things. And getting those people in a room and exchanging thoughts, even outside of all the cool implementation stuff I teach, but just getting to hear what they're doing and sharing their experiences and seeing people really develop and build new relationships with other people that know exactly what it's like when you're celebrating how amazingly your lead generation has gone versus talking about the cringeworthy sick feeling in your stomach when you got onto a BD call and called a stakeholder by the wrong name. Or in the case of me, in my first week back at work in January, I got onto a call with a company and called the company the wrong name. I'm going to blame the jet lag. That's what I did on the call. It was uncomfortable for about 30 seconds. And then I laughed and said, I've just realised that that is not who you work for. And that is an apology on my part. It just goes to show that it turns out you can make mistakes with corporate stakeholders and it can be laughed off, and you can get proposals requested and even work booked in the face of adversity. So the reason that I'm kind of giving you this background is because one of the sessions that I delivered at the C-suite in-person day was about the key trends and insights that are happening in the market this year. And I thought about it to myself and thought, well, you know, this is useful to everyone. And it's not C-suite specific. Obviously, if you have the C-suite, then I mean, it's really handy because you can go into the portal and just grab the templates and strategies and things to execute. But if you're not, it's also really useful to know what is going on, what's expected for 2024, what should you be watching out for, what could you be doing differently, and, you know, from a corporate perspective. So just to be clear, this is not like any of the sales trends that I've predicted. This is about how we actually go on to work with organizations and some of the key trends and insights that we're seeing early doors in 2024 and how you might want to adjust some of the things that you're thinking about. So let's just take a step back here and understand what's important. Now, when I look at what's important in my business, there are three things. One, revenue. Really important to me. I like to make money. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I don't think it makes me a bad person. I've seen a lot on the internet in January about how money is bad, etc., etc. Look, I'm also a woman who chooses to be child-free. There is not a lot on the internet these days that can hurt me. Side note, if you haven't seen the Business Insider article I was featured in talking about choosing to be child-free, then I would go and check it out, because their Instagram post had about 700 angry comments talking about how my jeans should be obsolete and how I was the worst person in the world. So, you know, when I talk about revenue, people at least don't tell me that my jeans should be obsolete. And that's, that's cool. But revenue is important to any business, and specifically profit. And most importantly, how we pay ourselves. And that is all factored in to revenue. The second thing that's really, really important to me is client results. I'm not shy about the fact that our clients get some of the best results in the market because we've worked really, really hard to create learning experiences that meet the needs of learners, and also resources that actually work and strategies that actually work and have been tested extensively across countries and cultures and languages. And that makes a really big difference to result rates. And it also is dependent on the people who buy programs from me and who actually implement. We have a hugely high success rate of people implementing the resources and strategies, and that means that we have a hugely high success rate of return on investment that is gained by our participants. And that's something that's super, super important to me. The final thing that is important to me is this idea that business should be fun. I didn't start a business to have another job, and I loved my job. So I'm the unicorn. I really loved what I did, and had it not been for my health, I probably would have done it forever. However, I worked 70, 80 hours a week every week. I would leave the house at 6:30 in the morning. I'd get to my desk for 7:30, 7:45 latest. I would start a full day, eat lunch at my desk, usually a jacket potato with tuna, just in case you're wondering. Yes, I was that person. Tuna in the office, how dare I? I'd be at my desk until 7:30 at night. I'd go out to client events or drinks in the evening, probably leaving between 9:30 and 10 to get home for 10:30, 11. It was a lot. It was a lot on my body, it was a lot on my brain, it was a lot on my adrenaline, and I loved it, but I couldn't have done it forever. And it's the same thing when I think about my business. I didn't start this to create another job. If anything, I wanted to create, I would say, more freedom, but I think that's kind of corny and overused in the current market. If I was to phrase it better, I think I'd say I wanted better boundaries around my work time and around my live life time, the time that I could decompress or that I could spend time honing other skills. A couple of years ago, I trained for the London Marathon. That is no mean feat. That is a lot of running every week and a lot of hours, especially for somebody who hates to run. But I could do that because I had created this business that I could sell and I could deliver in a time frame that meant I had enough other free time to live, to enjoy life. And those things are really important to me. So whenever I make any decisions in my business, they have to tick those boxes. Are they going to generate more revenue? Are they going to help our clients get better results? Am I going to get to have my time, my lifetime still, if I do it? And in some ways, it means that I say no to certain opportunities, certain consulting projects that just need more capacity than I have to give on a corporate front, the ways that I show up on the internet for my B2C business and not being able to be everywhere and do everything. But actually, I'm really happy and really content. And I think that that's something that we don't talk about enough. So when we're talking about the trends and insights on 2024, we have to start thinking about, well, what is it that we actually want from it? And that's what I want you to think about throughout this episode, is not just, okay, cool, what else can I do? But also, what else can I get rid of? What are my primary values or areas of focus? What do I want to do more of? Where do I want to make the most impact? And how can these trends or insights help you stay on track for those things? Also, Max is very snory today. I don't think that that's a word, but he is. So if you can hear him on the episode, he's got a lot to say about this. So trends and insights for 2024. There are 4 that I'm seeing across the board and that have established themselves very early in 2024, and some of them are actually quite late into 2023. And the first one that I want to talk about is personalization. And it's probably the most important trend of 2024 in terms of sales, in terms of delivery, in terms of relationship building with companies and stakeholders. And the reason it's so important is because last year was the year of artificial intelligence. Look, I don't hate AI. I'm not anti-robots. I just call me old-fashioned. But we live in this world where attention is so short, where we're only capable of looking at Instagram apparently for like 11 seconds. We can't focus if it's not short form content. And it's interesting to me because the main objection I hear from people about learning how to sell is they don't want to be salesy and they want to build genuine relationships. And yet the lack of personalization in sales processes last year and in relationship processes or relationship building processes last year was just outrageous. Look, I'm not tearing anyone down because some of the examples I'm going to give, you're going to say, but Jess, I had to do it this way because, and honestly, I'm not judging. I don't care. We all have to make choices sometimes. But a few examples of a lack in personalization last year were things like people sending automated DMs on LinkedIn. Right. Okay, cool. LinkedIn, clunky platform, doesn't always work in the best way, but hiring a bit of software to send out automated DMs that look automated and feel automated and sometimes have weird technical spasms, if you like, that mean that they send about 10 emails or 10 LinkedIn DMs at once and demonstrate very clearly that they're automated. It doesn't scream, I want to build a mutually beneficial relationship with the stakeholder that I'm targeting, or anyone for that matter. We also had AI in content creation, and that became really problematic really quickly, as evidenced by the fact that you now have to ask major AI platforms if that content has been replicated anywhere else on the internet. I actually heard from my husband that teachers are now monitoring kids' homework and checking that they're not using AI by getting parents to go to set up like ChatGPT prompts or something that say things like, insert the word anchovy twice in this essay before their kid goes on and does whatever they need to do. And teachers are like monitoring it that way, or they're putting it in white text or something like this, who's saying, you can tell I'm not the most technologically savvy person on the internet, but let's face it, AI written content, good for inspiration, good for motivation, good for sometimes being able to help you create a practical list of things that you want to focus on or do. But actually, a lot of plagiarism involved. And, the robots don't always know, weirdly enough, what's best. So that technology needs time to iron itself out. And this lack of personalization has really just gotten old for people. We're in the age of automation and AI and zero personalized approaches or attention. And so actually, the personalized stuff really stands out. Using personalized approaches in proactive outreach, using personalized approaches in relationship building techniques like keep in touches, using personalization for follow-ups, for your proposal processes, all tried and tested methods and techniques that are consultative, that actually generate more revenue, that generate more mutually beneficial relationships, that give you better information from clients, that make them feel really good about dealing with your organization and make them feel reassured and safe that you will be able to provide the solution you say you can, which ultimately generates in more revenue, better client experience, and of course, better life, fewer worries for you. The second interesting trend that I'm noticing is that good email marketing is continuing to surpass LinkedIn by a long way. And I say this as somebody who loves LinkedIn. It is literally the only social media platform that I have any kind of time for, that I spend any kind of time on. Because LinkedIn, kind of like the conversation we were having earlier, LinkedIn is the only place that I can find other intelligent people on the internet who like the things I like or have interesting conversations. It's just where I find them. But LinkedIn, since the pandemic, has been shocking for proactive outreach response rates. Now, I know there are tons of schools of thought on LinkedIn, and there is my school of thought, which is proactive outreach is always going to be more successful than content creation. And then there's the school of thought that content creation will drive traffic and leads and things like that. What I can say is based on the data that we've collected. So it's not based on the data of the internet at large. There are not any studies, as far as I'm aware, that have analysed at large the differences in success rates between email marketing and LinkedIn. And that's mainly because there are so many variables, like you'd have to do a study for coaches and a study for consultants and a study for trainers and speakers and everything else under the sun. But what I can tell you about the difference that we notice with LinkedIn response rates and email marketing response rates is that it's much easier, and has always been much easier, to connect with people on LinkedIn, but it is much harder to get a response rate, and the response rates are significantly lower. So LinkedIn, you used to be able to get 10 to 15% response rate. Since the pandemic, you're looking at 5 to 10% response rate, not acceptance rate. That always sticks around 25%. That's a big shift. You know, that's a lot of percentage points. Whereas email marketing, 10 to 20% range. And it's edging up. We're seeing a lot of people more commonly getting 15 to 20% response rates. In fact, one of the people who came to our C-Suite in person day explained that she was getting an 85% response rate to the cold email outreach strategy that is inside the program and the templates that she'd customized. 85%. And if anyone's thinking, oh my God, is she in some like crazy niche where nobody has ever heard of her product or service? No, she's actually working in the done for you space. It's really, really cool in that media market, which is notoriously difficult to crack, just as an FYI, but an 85% response rate. Now, of course, that is not standard. I've just given you the official stats, right? 10 to 20%. But it is interesting because I think there's this common perception that email marketing is not as friendly as LinkedIn. It's not as warm and fuzzy, that it's more spammy or more salesy in some way. And if done badly, just like everything else, it is. But the reality is it's also producing much, much higher results, much more qualified leads, and much more revenue, and also much better relationships with clients because it's higher barrier to entry than LinkedIn. They're actually seeing you directly inside their inbox. So again, if you're using the right strategy, it's working really, really well. Apparently not all stakeholders are like me with 370 unread emails in their inbox, right? So there are some that are obviously doing inbox zero every day, and I'm very, very impressed by those people. But it is important to know, you know, email marketing, it's great for lead generation. It's got a much better data set for results than LinkedIn has. And also it's much simpler, which kind of brings me on to my next point. When it comes to email, and not from a lead generation perspective, from a nurturing relationships, keeping in touch, ongoing sales, market research perspective, email is simple. My clients are sending one newsletter a month to their corporate newsletter lists, one. And on the back of that one newsletter a month, they're booking calls for business development. They're getting market research from qualified prospects. They're selling offers and services, one newsletter a month, in comparison to sitting on LinkedIn, doing 4 posts a week or whatever the kind of thing is now. But simplicity is my next point. And I'm not going to talk about simplicity from the perspective of one particular like sales method or something. Instead, I'm talking about simplicity from an entry perspective or a clarity perspective. One of the interesting things that I noticed about 2023 and that has become more prevalent in 2024 is that stakeholders have a lot of decision fatigue. It's really, really busy, and it has been really busy for a long time in all areas of businesses. And they've been managing and juggling tons of projects, tons of initiatives, tons of trauma with their employees and mental health issues with employees that are like the hangover from COVID. There's just been a lot. And so that's meant that actually the big, broad, bland, can I say it? Statements that use the big blue sky language in an introduction, they're just not working. They're not getting responses. They're just getting ignored. So people who are saying, for example, I'm a leadership coach and I focus on talent development and retention at senior leadership level. Stakeholders are just like, I don't even want to decipher that and figure out what it means to me, whether or not we could use it. And so instead of making any of those decisions, they just ignore. So if your lead generation isn't working, you're thinking it could be a messaging, start there. Think about whether you're being too broad. Whereas the simpler stuff is working really, really well at getting responses. And as I say to my clients all the time, what you talk about in your initial messaging may not be every single thing you do, right? When I talk to people about what I do, I'm a sales coach. That's a broad environment. Sales is a huge area and covers a whole lot of things. So in my lead generation messaging, I'm always really specific about one area that I'm approaching them to discuss. And that way, if they come back and they're like, oh yeah, we want to discuss that, awesome. I know what a key pain point is. And if they come back and they say, oh no, we've got that covered, that's okay. Because sales is such a huge area, I can go back with something else that they might not have considered or ask what their results are like in particular areas. It starts a conversation rather than getting me ghosted right from the beginning. And it's the same for you, and it's the same for my clients. So simplicity, going, I don't know, mile deep on that initial entry point on what you actually do or that initial thing that they could know you for. And again, I get this sounds scary. Some people will, particularly in health and wellness, they'll be like, but I'm a wellness expert. I can do lots of things. I can cover perimenopause, menopause, nutrition, all of these other health concerns. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but don't give them decision fatigue. Give them one entry point to understand where you could potentially add value. And if they say no, that's okay, because you can go back in with a different area. Whereas if they say, hey, we've got wellness covered, what are you going to do? It's very difficult to come back from that. And then finally, and this is a sales, specifically sales related. The others are used in terms of lead generation, in terms of building and maintaining and leveraging relationships, and also some sales perspectives. But the final one is very much a sales piece and delivery piece. It's about not taking B2C advice for a B2B revenue stream. And I'm just going to put this out here for 2024, that in 2023, I saw a lot of people come to me who had spent thousands of pounds on courses that promised them how to learn how to build a course, or how to get a big following on Instagram, or how to monopolize one of the other social media platforms outside of LinkedIn. And they'd spent lots of time and money and energy on buying and then decoding and then implementing those courses on the premise that people said, oh, you can definitely create a membership and sell it to corporates using this course, or you can definitely find corporate clients on Instagram. And they didn't, because you can't. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, but what memberships? You can sell a membership to a corporate client, but you can't sell a membership to a corporate client using B2C sales strategies, because they're not hanging out on social media in their spare time being like, oh, I wonder if we could get a wellness membership at work. Let me just go and have a look on Facebook. They're just not doing it. So just be aware that in 2024, the strategies that you use, B2C and B2B, will be very starkly different, and that is okay. It's not to say that B2C strategies don't work to get B2C clients. That's not it at all. But what you do need to understand is that if we are looking at those kind of three key components around revenue and client experience and results and free time, your B2B sales activity will be very different, very targeted, very measurable, and very proactive, as opposed to the kind of popular strategies that we see. You know, there are no sales pages in B2B. There are no live launches. There's none of that. So just make sure that you, for your own benefit, are using the right strategies, whether it's from me or from somebody else who is in the space. Just make sure you're using the right strategies that are going to get you the right results in the area that you want. And then just as a little, not side note, but I just thought it might be interesting to share how I'm applying some of these trends, because I think it's always a bit difficult to think about things esoterically. And I felt like giving a couple of examples might help put it into practice a little bit. So how am I applying these to my business? Well, in terms of personalization, I've always built personal relationships. So nothing really changes for me there. I didn't use AI last year. I had a bit of a play around with some of the AI platforms just to see what the sitch was and didn't care for any of them. I just wasn't interested in the stuff that the internet would regurgitate. And actually, that hasn't changed for me this year. In terms of personalization, this year I'm still going to continue building proactive relationships with my corporate clients and prospects. I'm still going to continue my personalized outreach and relationship building strategies with corporate clients because it works really well and means that we develop this base of trust, which has led to me signing over £50,000 worth of corporate business in January alone. But what I am interested in doing with personalization this year is about the experience that I give my clients. I'm focusing on connection. So both in a B2C and a B2B sense, connecting the right people to one another in the hope that the collective of people that I know do better. And that for me looks like introducing more people before our Converting Corporates event, who will be able to generate referrals from one another and who will be able to be accountability buddies for one another. It looks like bringing together my C-suite people in person at least one more time this year to really cultivate those connections and get that in-person, in-the-room learning and implementation done, giving people motivation and connections and accountability that they wouldn't get elsewhere. And from a corporate perspective, it looks like introducing clients that are peers or making referrals to other business owners and suppliers that would benefit them. Those kinds of things that just create more personal experiences and better relationships with clients. In terms of email marketing, I've always loved it. I will stand on the email marketing hill until I'm a very, very, very old person. And I've had a lot of success already this year with our corporate email outreach. I was actually telling the participants at the C-Suite in person day about my successes outsourcing our email marketing outreach strategies and messaging to a local 18-year-old. So if you have a teenager and you are in the C-suite, I would reiterate that it is possible to give them the customized templates, tell them exactly what to do, give them your target list, and away they go. Because that worked really, really well for us. And it also meant that I wasn't having to spend my time sending cold outreach emails, which obviously I don't mind, isn't something that brings me any particular great joy. So it was really, really nice to give some work experience to a local teenager. It was really, really nice to see them thrive in a different environment. It was also really nice to pay them because they then subsequently, with the money they earned from email marketing, took themselves off to India for a holiday, like a gap month in India, which I thought was pretty cool. And also it got results in our business as well. We ended up with new leads in a slightly new industry, which was interesting. we ended up having about 17 business development calls booked for January whilst I was away in New Zealand over Christmas, which I came back to, hence not really knowing what a company was called. It was great for me to be able to just relinquish some control over that, knowing that the strategy works, that the templates work, that the things that we put in place to make proactive outreach a positive experience that converts work. And for those of you who are coming along to Converting Corporates, you are going to see a lot about email marketing on March 7th and 8th. So prepare your brains. From a B2C perspective, email marketing looks different this year. You know, there are new regulations. We're past February the 1st. I don't know what DMARC is and DNS settings and all these kinds of things, but we have been working away on it for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, trying to make sure that everything is set up so that we can still contact people and that we can still continue to send out the newsletters, which are really popular and things like that. It's also meant that I've decided to spend more time embracing both personalization and email marketing, opening up a new deep dive or monthly deep dive Substack for people who are interested in decoding real life B2B sales scenarios and why things work out and why they don't. And it's been really cool. I opened the Substack, I think last week of January, and we're already at 105 subscribers, which is pretty cool. So, you know, if you're interested in monthly deep dives on real life B2B sales scenarios and seeing them being broken down, then check it out. If you're also a Substacker, it'd be cool to connect because I'm now a raging like Substacker. I'm loving it. And then finally, simplicity. I like to keep it simple. I experimented with a lot last year, mainly behind the scenes, so you may or may not have seen some of those things. I experimented with some of the types of content that we put out. I experimented with some of the ways that we onboarded new program participants. I experimented with some of the services that I wanted to sell to corporate clients and retired some things from my corporate and B2B practice and also implemented things that were more interesting and more profitable for me. And that really gave me the ability to focus on that revenue piece, but also client experience. Doing work that I love and that I'm good at means that I am able to provide a much better client experience, and gave me the ability to set some really clear boundaries around when I was working and what I was working on and scopes of projects and things like that. So for me, this year, I'm all in on the experiments that proved, I don't know, successful. And for me, that means I'm all in on deep dive content. I'm all in on focusing on client experience. I'm all in on my proven programs and consulting and continuing to streamline my business rather than being everywhere and doing everything, because I know that that is what brings me revenue. It's what brings our clients the best result. And it's what brings me the life that I actually enjoy living and have time to live. So hopefully that has been interesting for you. And like I say, if you are ready to start tracking your metrics and your revenue so that you can make better decisions for your business, then make sure you check out that tracking spreadsheet. Check it out at the link in the show notes. Use the discount code TRACK, all in caps, and you can download that and start making pro moves towards your best business year yet. I will see you in the next episode.